Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's Brother Raya. I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashima Mashiach, or Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, taking notes, being diligent, doing everything they could do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand, to wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf in this thing, actually sincerely reverencing their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, by being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf that are not married as of yet, but remaining shamefaced and diligent to the coming of our Lord Yahweh Shah. And another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, abstaining from all lust and concupiscence and peer pressure of this world. And last but not least, another strong shalom, right, to the whole 12 tribes of the nation of Israel that's on fire for the Most High God, reading and praying and fasting and making their body living sacrifice. Right, this is going to be an in-depth breakdown on so-called black inventions, man. A lot of people, they talk about how great Jake is on a war aspect. They talk about how great Jake is as a prophet and a priest, but how much the inventions, man. And we literally invented everything there is to the life that we're living in today, man. Right? And Esau has taken credit and stolen all of the inventions, the terminology, the numbers, the schooling, the understanding that the Most High God has bestowed upon Jacob, man. And we're going to dive deep into it to uncover these breakdowns and these mysteries, man. Right? Let me go straight into it. Right? I'm going to share my screen. And give me a strong con if you can see the screen. Give me a strong con if you can see the screen. Right? All right, we're going to dive straight into it. Right, I'm going to start off with the book of Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. All right, this is the mighty book of Jeremiah, chapter 10. And I'm going to start at verse 16. And it reads, the portion of Jacob is not like them. Meaning we're not like these other nations, man. We cook better than them. We're stronger than them. We're taller than them. Our melanin is stronger than them, man. Everything about us as an aspect of people is better than the so-called white man, man. I mean, the knowledge that we have, our common sense, our strength, right? Understanding the Lord, being close with our Heavenly Father. Everything on this earth is not like these other nations, man. These other nations, they're beasts of the field. It says, for he is the former of all things. So when you think about washing, bathing, inventions, cooking, cleaning, sewing, clothes, understanding weather, terminology, going into different understanding of the times, all of that is given and only given to who? To Jacob, man. It says, for he is the former of all things. Everything comes out of us. All of these nations come out of us, man. Hey, let me get this quick precept. The Lord formed man from the dust of the ground. We were the first chosen, man. The Lord created us in what? His image. Let me get that real fast. So you got to stop thinking you nothing, man. Stop thinking these other nations are bigger and badder than you and have more type of reign than you just because they have buildings. Just because this is their so-called nation and they built this up through the backs of our forefathers, man. This Genesis chapter 9, right? Matter of fact, let me get this other quick precept. Let me just get that in Genesis, the 2nd chapter. It's Genesis chapter 2 and verse number 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, man. So in a deeper level, the Lord breathed into us wisdom, knowledge, understanding, direction, counsel, right? The Lord gave all of that to Jacob, right? Let me get this quick precept. Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, verse 24. It says, for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of God. So when the Lord breathed into the chosen Adam, he didn't just breathe and make him a living soul, man. He gave him wisdom. and it's more moving, you understand, than any motion, and passive and going through all things by reason of her pureness. So we're a pure people, we're a holy people, we're a knowledgeable people, and we're a people that form and create inventions, man. Right now, I'm gonna kick it off. This right here, it says black inventions and black inventors and their inventions, right? So you got paper. Now we're gonna go through this whole list through the spirit, and a lot of these things are spiritual. Now the Lord, through the hand, you understand, of our people, have created paper. Now that's how you write letters. That's how you go back and forth. If it wasn't for paper, how would we be able to send, you understand, things of ambassadors going back and forth, be able to write epistles like Paul did? Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 7, and verse number 1. And it reads, says, now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me. So the church of Corinth was communicating with Paul, and they were writing letters one to another, man. Now this is something from old time that they were doing, right? They used to write on animal skin. They used to write on tables of stone. They used to write on paragraphs. They used to write on hieroglyphs on the walls, but also paper, and coming into it was invented by our people. You have chess, and chess is a thinking man's game. You know, do I move here? Do I move there? It's a strategic strategy how to overcome, you understand, an enemy. And when I think of chess, I also think of going to war, like the Lord talked about in Luke, right? Let me get this quick precept, the 14th chapter, right? Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Luke, chapter 14, and verse number 31. Or what king goeth to make war against another king, sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000. Meaning that's how kings think. Kings don't just barge out there and start throwing rocks, hammers, shields, axes, and swords, going to war. A real king is going to think about his move before he makes it. Yahweh Shai has everything on the time scheme, huh? He has all the angels numbered. Everything from the ordering of the sun, from all of the stars, everything is in order. And everything is thought about before it has an enterprise. The so-called white man doesn't think like that. He just robs and rapes. And he moves like a beast with what? His instincts, right? You also got the alphabet. Now you have the alphabet. You have all the way in the Hebrew, which is 22, all the way to the so-called American vocabulary, which is 26. The alphabet was created by the so-called black man, man. So how we even speak, right? How we conduct letters and forms and all of these different things were by our own people, man. So don't get a so-called white man so much credit of all the things that he stole, raped, and he put his name on it, man. Isn't he? Let me get this quick precept. Isn't he known for doing that, man? It's the book of Psalms, chapter 49, and verse number 11. Right? And it reads, it says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. So the so-called white man, he'll rape a land, steal it, and call it by his own name. You have medicine. Medicine created by the so-called black man, and not the wicked hypnotos medicine that they give you today, man. When you go to the doctor's office, you say, man, my shoulder kind of hurt. Then he give you this big fat orange pill, man. Now next thing you know, your knees, your kneecaps are weak, man. You got to go back and try this green pill. When you take the green pill, now your shoulder blade is hurting, man. Next thing you know, you're in a coma 3 weeks from now. They got all type of antidotes, all type of jabs, all type of medicines they'll give you. They try to jab your children as soon as they're born. That's on the left-hand side. The medicine that the Lord gave man, you have like Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi, he went into all type of roots, all type of herbs, all type of vegetables, all type of hemps and things to heal the body naturally from what the Most High gave. You can read about that in the book of Sirach. But let me get this quick precept in Sirach. We're not dealing with the so-called white man's science and his terminology and how he gets down, because he's just going to change things around and have you to be sick. These things have your kidneys to bleed out, back problems. You're not thinking for straight. You're schizophrenic. The Lord said, it's the book of Sirach, 38 verse 1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him, for the uses, right, which you may have of him, for the Lord had created him. Check that out. It says, for the Most High God cometh healing. Meaning you have to have faith and works to be healed, but you have to have a physician also to know what the Lord has put upon the earth to use for your well-being. And he have received honor unto the king. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head. Meaning that's a skillful thing to know what wormwood is, to know what burdock is, to know what blackberry is, to know all of these different herbs and hemps and different things that the Lord has created to heal your body. Not only to heal it, but to cleanse it. A lot of people have kidney failure. A lot of people may have parasites. A lot of people may be slothful and sluggish, weight problems. And the Lord has created a physician on the earth to deal with diverse medicines to help you out, man. Hey, Luke was a doctor. Let me get that in the book of Colossians, chapter 4 and verse 14. It's the book of Colossians, chapter 4 and verse 14, and it reads, Luke, the beloved physician, and Demas greet you. So Luke was a physician. Luke was out there helping people, also scribing, first-hand accounts. He was diligent with the Lord through the spirit of power. So Luke was a physician. So we created medicine, man, and not talking about the medicine pharmaceutical companies that they dealt with, man. You have civilization. Check that out. So before the so-called white man raped, robbed, and pillaged, you had a such thing called in Jamestown, Virginia, when the so-called British came to colonize what the world is now classified as the US of A. In 1607, you had a man that's going to the history. What was going on in 1607? Let's find out. 1607, Jamestown. Check this out. So you have Jamestown, Virginia, right? Where they coming in 1607 to 1699. Now, when they came to rape and pillage this earth, their mentality was, you know what? We're going to take this land. But you know what? They couldn't survive on the land. These Edomites didn't know how to survive those harsh winters. They didn't know how to take down these beasts. They didn't know the aisles and the different paths and the different places to where to get shelter. They didn't know what a water holes were. They don't know what a grass and a vegetation and different things of how to survive and even how to make things, weapons, shelter. They had no idea how to survive. But you know who did? Gad did. So they had to literally, when you go into the history of this, now that's a whole nother cold cut for a whole nother day, but it had to take another man, right? And that was a so-called white man from Pocahontas. When he came, he was actually the man that helped build up Jamestown, Virginia, because Jamestown, Virginia was going down because they could not maintain those harsh winters and those harsh seasons, and the economy was going down. So they couldn't even survive. So civilization, building it up, making roads, making paths, making street lights, street corners, helping people, making buildings, all of these different things are from our people, man. It's not from the so-called white man. The so-called white man's beginnings are what? In the clefts of the rocks, in the mountains where he braids, like you read about in Job. Let's go 30, right? In verse number 1. And it reads, it says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock, because they're really beasts of the field. They deserve to be outside. Yeah, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want of flock, for want and famine, they were solitary. That's the same thing was going on in 1607. They didn't have any food. They were damn near suffering a famine. So this man had to come and help build up the civilization of the robbery and rape that was going on for the new so-called land, right, that they were taking. It says flying into the mountains, the wilderness, and former time desolate and waste. So they're flying into the wilderness and former times desolate and waste. Who cut up marlows by the bushes and Jupiter roots for their meat? I mean, they didn't know how to survive, man. We taught them how to wash. We gave them soap. We taught them how to stand up upon 2 feet, man. When you actually go into this thing, this man did not know anything because his attributes and his old spirit that was within him was a beast. Look into the dark ages, man, when we ruled, right? When we were knights, where they so-called classify us as Moors. We are the original warriors. The Assyrians and Maccabees, we are the original warriors, man. Now they take our military structure, our military armor, and they take it and they put witchcraft upon it and add into it and make bombs and things like that. But nevertheless, we're the original soldiers. We built up civilizations, right? You have our propelling, right? So propeller planes, right? Biscuit cutter, folding bed, coin changer, rotary engine. We created engines. Didn't Uzziah create engines, man? When you go into the history, let me get that quick precept, man. So all the way from times of old, our kings had engines. Let's get that in the book, right? Of First Chronicles, chapter 28, and verse number 9. And it reads, and thou Solomon, Salaki, that's not what I want. Salaki, bear with me. Get Second Chronicles 26. It's Second Chronicles chapter 26. And I'm gonna start at verse 9. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate and the valley gate and at the turning of the wall and fortified them. So he built towers, man. Let's look at this real fast. Because you see the skyscrapers of the so-called white man, you see all of the buildings, and you look all the way up to 15 floors, the 35-foot floors all the way up, skyscrapers. But we built the original towers. We were doing this from old, man. Now the so-called white man, he has taken the inventions of the so-called black man to build up his society. Name one thing he's created that's righteous upon the earth, that's lucrative, that brings forth money without anything that he has stolen or anything that he's polluting the air or polluting the people with. You can't name it. So what did Uzziah do? Right? It says, moreover, built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate and at the valley gate and at the turning of the wall and fortified them. Also, he built towers in the desert and dig many wells. So Uzziah dig wells too, man. Check this out. Look at that. You know how long it takes to dig a well? We didn't have Bob the Builder machines. We didn't have all that jog stick and all of the inventions, right, that they stole from us to do these type of things. We had to get it down. And to dig all hundreds of feet down to make wells. I mean, you have to be a wise man to be able to have the architectural knowledge to be able to do that. And the manpower to do that. So he dug wells, right? It says, from fortified them. Also, he built towers in the desert and dig many wells, for he had much cattle, both in the low country and the plains, husbandmen and vine dressers in the mountains, and caramel, for he loved husbandry. Check that out. Moreover, Uzziah had an host of fighting men that went about war by bands, according to the number of their account, by the hand of Eliud the scribe, and Masai the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men in valor were 2,000, right, and 600. Check that out. It says, and under the hand was an army 300,000 and 7,500, and made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemies. Right? It says, and Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields. We created shields and spears and helmets and hagabons and bows and slings to cast stones. So before you had lasers, before you had bullets, before you had all of these different things that the so-called white man's grenades, M16s, right, M4s, and all of these different things, and AK-47s, right, and all of these different sticks and 40s and all of these things, but machine guns, we had the original shields, spears, helmets, hagabons, bows, and slings to cast stones. And he made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men. So way before you get to this century and this time frame, we had engines. Right, the so-called white man Ford, right? Driving an old car. This was the first engine. They paint them all black and white. This is the first plane. No, we've been doing these things, man. Look at this. Rotary engine, man. It says this. Let me read the rest on that. Engines invented by cunning men to beat on towers and upon the bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones. So these are your catapults, right? This was Uzziah had, man. All the way from old. Casting stones. Check that out, man. So we was warriors in this thing, man. Just like Jake, if you don't know how, you're gonna get it done, man. Jake known for rigging something up, taking a little that he has and making it fit and making it useful. So this is what Uzziah had. It says, and upon bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones were with, and his name spread far above, for he was marvelously helped till he was strong. Check that out. You also got a car coupler, the letterbox to send mail, right? You wouldn't maybe be receiving or sending out mail if it wasn't for a so-called black man. Stainless steel pads for cleaning, right? Torpedo discharger, disposal, home security system, right? So a lot of people that have their home security system, that was created by a so-called black woman. Corn planter, cotton planter, iron board, street sweepers that clean up the cities, horse bridle bit, horseshoe, the lawnmower, the typewriter, the train alarm, right? The image converter for the radiator detector, peanut butter. Check that out, man. Washington Carver. Paint and stains, lotion and soaps. Hold on now. Lotion and soaps. So before the so-called black man, nobody was really washing. They were washed by the ponds, right? Let me get that real fast. It says that in the book of Exodus, all the way during that time. Let me get this real fast. It's the book of Exodus, chapter 2. And I'm going to start at 7. Right? I'm going to start at 5. It says, and the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. So they used to wash outside, man, at a damn river. So these heathens, they didn't have any soap. Pharaoh's daughter, how she washed is she would just go down to a lake. Isn't that how dogs wash? Isn't that how bears and different creatures, they go down to the rivers and the banks and they just dive in? Isn't that how the so-called white man used to bathe? Even though he doesn't even bathe. Where's the soap at? How are you washing yourself? Where's the rag? Where's the sense to get all of these different things and these different dirts and chemicals and impurities, dead skin, and God knows what off your body, man? Right, might be smoke particles or whatever the case may be. How do you get that off you? She's just washing at the river, taking whatever is mixed in with the swamp and all of that and washing herself with it. Check this out. And her maidens walked along by the riverside, and when she saw that the ark among the flags, she set her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child. Behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on it and said, this is one of the Hebrew children. It says, let me get down to this point that I want. Let me read all the way down. Salaki, let me get this quick precept. All right, it's the book. Salaki, bear with me. Okay, Exodus 2 and 3. That's what I want too, to go along with her washing. And when she could not longer hide him, she took him, right, in an ark and bushes and dabbed it with slime and pitched it and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the riverbank. She got slime next to the riverbank, right? Dabbed it with slime, all types of bristles, piss, and God knows what by the riverbank. And she's washing in it. So who created the soap? We did, man. Who created the lotions? We did. It says lotions. Automatic fishing reel. And who's the spiritual fishers, man? We are. When James, John, all the men of the Lord used to fish, all that's from old in the ancient time. Right? Let me get that in Matthew, the 4th chapter. And a lot of the ancient time and the terminology, how they used to fish, was they used to cast nets. That's in Luke, the 5th chapter. They would take a big broad net and they would cast it, and then it would go to the bottom, and then it will lock back up, and then they will pull it back in, and that will be all of the fish. This is the book of Luke, right? Chapter 5 and verse number 4. Right? I'm gonna start at 3. It says, and he entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land, that he sat down and taught the people out of the ship. And when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a drought. And Simon answered, said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night. And we're sitting up here trying to fish all day night, huh? And have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net. And when they had done, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake. Check that out. So you had the old ancient way of fishing, but also you have the new way of fishing, which is a fishing line, man. We created that. The fishing reel, ice cream mold, printing press, right? So when you go to your Bible, and then you have Cambridge University, Christian publishing, and all these different things to create, press, and print to get these scriptures and these Bibles spread abroad through the four corners. We created that, man. And the Lord has used the kings of this earth, you understand, for their duties, but he's also used the mind of Jake for the inventions. Right, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 68 and verse 11. Right, and it reads, it says, Salaki. It says, the Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those that published it. Huh? So who are the publishers of the earth? We are. We're the ones that created the paper. We're the ones that created publishing. I have this word to go out throughout the four corners of the earth. Envelope seal. Check that out. Laser fuse. Pressure cooker. Window cleaner. Pencil sharpener. Fire extinguisher. Look how many lives that has saved. The fire extinguisher. The lock. We created the lock. Without the so-called black man, your house would be wide open. Fires and all hell breaking loose throughout the Amazon and different diverse places in schools, hospitals, houses. How many lives has that changed, man? The fire extinguisher and the lock. We're not just men that just jump very high and just niggas, man. And the Lord said, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. That's why when they wear their pants off their behinds and they just smoke weed and they just stereotype themselves, it just shows you how hard and how long we have fallen as a people, man. And what we used to do, how we used to act, and the knowledge we used to have. It's the book of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter. I mean, back in the 40s, the so-called black man, he had a little bit more prestige with him. He wore suits. He cared about his hair. Right, kind of dressed up. You had Black Wall Street, right? We tried to help one another somewhat. Even in the ancient world, man, we were brothers. We loved one another. We invented different things to help the society, the armies, or whatever the case may be. But now all we do is fight, shoot, and do drugs. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 3, and verse number 2. The mighty men and the men of war. So we were men of war. The judge and the prophet. Who are the judges of the earth? The blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Read Judges, the 10th chapter. Right? That's a judge from the house of Issachar. You have many judges. Right? Wisdom of Solomon, the 6th chapter, 6 verse 1 all the down. Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 1. We are the judges of the earth. That's the 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 2 all the way down. The prophets and the prudent and ancient. What does prudent mean, man? Because we're not niggas, man. We're prudent, wise men. And we got to get back to that. Check this out. We're going to go to the definition of that. The word prudent. It says wise, well judged. Check that out. Advisable. Didn't get any more definitions. Circumspect, fair-sighted. Check that out. So all of these different things, well advised, wisdom. We're the prudent, right? It says prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50, the honorable men, and the counselor, and the cunning artificiary, and the eloquent auditor. So an auditor is somebody like that breaks down different speeches. Like in different courtrooms, they'll bring an auditor, or they bring in somebody that'll break down the Latin, or somebody speaks Latin or the Spanish, or they're going to the Greek, or they're going to the Hebrew. Somebody may go into the English if they're abroad overseas. So they have these different things. They even brought an orator in a court with Paul, I believe, in Acts, the 24th chapter, right, to break down the different speeches and the eloquent things that were spread abroad in a courtroom. So all of that's us, man. Let me get the book of Acts real fast. Let's go into that. It's Acts chapter 24. Right? In verse number 1. And after 5 days, Ananias the high priest descended with the elders with certain orator named Tilius, who informed the governor against Paul. So check that out, man. So even from old, you had men that had go in the court to do different things, right? And they were trying to overtake Paul, but nevertheless, you still had those diverse men that had speeches. You had a lock, shoelace machine, lubricators, right? So if you have machine work and you're trying to get your machines lubricated to go in and different oils and different things to make things fit with clocks and oils, right? We created that. Rocket catapult, elevator to go up and down in diverse floors. Think how many old people that has helped. How many people from the bottom in the basement all the way to the top penthouse floor that would have had to walk if it wasn't for us. We created the elevator, the gas mask, from all chemicals, all different things and smokes. That saves people's lives when the so-called firemen go into diverse buildings. And then they put on a gas mask and they help people, man. Or people work in mines. Think how many things and times I have saved them. Traffic signal. How would it be order in the streets if it wasn't for us? The red light, the slow down, right? The slope, the yellow, and then the green to go. If it wasn't for us and stop signs, signals, construction work, and traffic lights, we wouldn't even be able to survive in this city, right? Without it being crashes. The hairbrush, right? Heating furnace. How many cold winters has it helped us? And we had a heating furnace. Airship blimp. Folding chair. And we use that to whoop Esau in Alabama, man. Hand stamp. Fountain pen. Dustpan. Destroyer gun. Baby bug. Sugar refinement. Clove dryer. Right? So we created soap and we created a clothes dryer and washing machine. Cellular phone. Now, look how many times you use your phone a day. You may be watching your video right now on your phone. If it wasn't for a so-called black man, we would not be able to call and get to somebody all the way in Alabama, all the way in Mississippi, all the way in California. In the ancient time when they went to war, they didn't have cell phones, man. You better hope your wife is where she should be and that somebody didn't come and ravish the village and take all the women captive. You better hope when you were gone in war that she was okay and pray to the Most High. See, a lot of men and women in the ancient world, they had more faith than they do now. Now it's easier to not have faith because of all the inventions and things that we have now, man. We have the car, the cell phone, the TV, you can FaceTime. They didn't have that in the ancient world. But it's made much easier now to get the words of God, to be able to communicate, to make moves righteously, to travel, to do this prophet, and to be an apostle, man. So how many times you may have went to war, whatever the case may be, me in Iraq, and you couldn't talk to your children, but then you could FaceTime. All of that's created by the so-called black man. Pressing cone, curtain rod. That's all the way back from the law. We had the curtain rods, right? When you read the book of Exodus. Lawn sprinkler. And that's a spiritual invention because it helps the grass to grow and we are the sheep. Right? Let me go into some other ones. Check this out. Right? Automatic gear shift. So when you driving, right, we created the automatic gear shift. Street sweeper. Right? It says urinalist machine, horse riding saddle, shoe. We created the shoe, man. So when we have shoes, hey, Abraham even said that, man. I will not give thee of my shoe lash, lest thou sayest thou hast made me rich. Let me get that in the book of Genesis. The Lord said, take off thy shoe, for the place that thou standest is holy, in the book of Exodus. Right? Let me get this quick precept. It's Genesis chapter 14. And I'm going to start. This whole thing is fire. Start at 23. It says that I would not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet. So, I mean, we had shoes in the ancient world and we had sandals. And that I would not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say that I have made Abraham rich. So Abraham had integrity, man. Wasn't just taken from everybody. Right? Going back to it, it says shoe, slocket, player piano. So we created piano, man. We had music. Didn't David play the harp and the string instruments that take off spirits from Jake, man? Think how many musical tunes and how many sounds that you've actually heard that was from the piano that had helped you out in so many situations. It made you smile, made you dance in a feast day, help you get over maybe a death in your family. And these musical instruments are spiritual and they help your spirit because the Lord has created it using Jacob, which is the former of all things. Right? It says this. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 32, and verse number 3. Speak thou that art the elder becometh thee, but with sound judgment and hinder not music. It says hinder not music, man. Because it's a time to dance. It's a time to have fun. It's a time to turn up. It's a time to hear that piano, man. And to hear that harp. And to hear that guitar. And hear all of these musical instruments that the Lord has created using the hand of Jake, man. Right? Let me get this real fast. In the book of 1 Samuel. It's 1 Samuel chapter 14. Matter of fact, let me get this quick precept. It's the book of 1 Samuel. Chapter 16 and 16. That's what I want. It's 1 Samuel 16 and verse 16, and it reads. It says, let our Lord now command thy servant, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is a cunning player on an harp. And it shall come to pass that when the evil spirit, right, from God that is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. Now that's spiritual is I don't know what, because music can take away an evil spirit off you. Think of you and your husband maybe getting into it, then you hear a song. And that could be y'all song. The song y'all fell in love to. The song that was on your first date. The song that was on your last, time that you went out for dinner, right, on a date, and you had fun with. Or just one of your favorite songs, man. It'll take all of that stress in that situation and may relieve it off of you, man. Because there's power in music. Right? Let me get this. It says piano player, for record player. So DJs, scratching, beats, hip hop, all things that form to the music that we have today came from Jake, man. You have the piano, you have the harp, you have the record player. So before you had an iPod, before you had a phone player and a cassette deck and all of these different things, you had the record player, man. Now, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, I remember I was going somewhere with my father. I was going to Florida, and I went to the so-called what they call it, the airplane, little thing in the airplane. I'm not sure what it's called. When you catch a plane, You going through all of the stores in the airport. Right, I went in there and they had a record player, man. And there was no CDs back then. And all you did was push play and you just listen to the radio, man. And I had my headphones on like a damn DJ. And I had my head was like a little boy just jamming on the radio, man. And Jake invented that. It said the door stop, doorknob. And that's spiritual. That's some wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter. The Lord standeth at the door and knock. It says his hand is myrrh droppeth on the door handles, man. Let me get that real fast. So it's in Jake's spirit to reinvent all of these things because we had all of these things from old. Before they stripped us and they beat us and they robbed us mentally, and before the society got built up, right back from us coming as slaves, we invented all of these things back over again because it was in our spirits and we had them in the ancient world. All right, let me get this real fast. This Song of Solomon, the 5th chapter. It's the book of Song of Solomon 5:5. I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh, and my fingers with sweet smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. Man, check that out. It says, my beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. So that's spiritual. It's talking about Yahweh coming in unto us. The photo print wash, photo embossing machine, postal letter box, toilet cup mod. So who invented the toilet? In the ancient times, before you could flush, and they had pipes, and it'll take it all the way to the sewage line and go to all of the sanitation department. Before they had that, and they'll take those big ships, and they'll take all of the feces and trash, and they'll take it out to sea. Before they were doing that, or burn it, put it in a furnace, whatever the case may be. They just had toilets with holes in them in the so-called medieval times, right before we came in, right, as rulers during the dark ages. They would just take a number 2 in the toilet and leave it there, man. Then somebody would have to come and scoop it out, right? I mean, that's madness. You know, they were doing that behind bushes, the so-called white man. The same bushes and the same places they walked without any shoes on. That's how the so-called white man get down. But we're clean people. A furniture caster, guitar, check that out. The golf, so like your golf, the motor, thermal hair curlers. So, I mean, Eve with their curls, braids, that's in the scriptures, right? I mean, our daughters of Zion are very comely and beautiful people. Now, look at this. Right? So-called white woman hair. It's just straight. No salt. Nothing cool about it. Just stricken off your head. Like a horse behind hair, man. But check this out. Why is she wearing braids? So the so-called white woman has stolen the braids, trying to steal the big lip look, the nice eyebrows, the big nice eyes, the earrings, all the things the daughters of Zion have from the ancient world, because they have no style, no originality. They don't have any purpose. There are people to where they watch and they steal everything. Don't you know that they have undercover spies? They get dropped off in the hood to walk around just to see how Jake dressed, so they could take it to the higher ups in corporate so that they could create new styles of clothing. Don't you know we're the ones that do the tie-dye shirts? We're the ones that cut our jeans. We're the ones that wear our hats backwards. We're the ones that cuff our jeans, and we're the ones that do these diverse things, and they take it, they view it. Now it's global. Name one time it was a so-called white woman or a white man that did a viral dance. A Jake dance one time, it hit TikTok, get 1 million views. Next thing you know, all of the suburban kids, all of the white kids, they're all dancing, all trying to be just like you. What is salt of the earth, man? Let me get that real fast. Literally, the Lord said through the hand of Job, the 6th chapter, can anything be seasoned without salt? Meaning, can anything in the society function and flourish if Jake was not in it. From inventions to leadership to understanding to salt, entertainment, dances, movies, media. What would TV be like if Jake wasn't on it? What would your favorite sports player be like? Let me get this real fast, man. Basketball in the 60s. This what you want to see, man? You're going to pay all your hard-earned money to see Esau run up and down the court with booty shorts on. No, nobody's coming to see this, man. Nobody cares about Larry Bird. Nobody cares about Djokovic, man. Nobody cares about these Edomites. They're coming to go see Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, right? Steph Curry, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. They're coming to see these legends, man. These men that know how to move with that rock, the dunk, right? When you go to all of these different sports and these different players, right? Whether you go to baseball, right? Northern Kingdom is running baseball. You go to soccer, Northern Kingdom is running soccer. You go to basketball, right? The Southern Kingdom is running these things. The Lord said, it's the book of Job 6:6. Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? What's unsavory? This world is unsavory. Without salt in it, what can be eaten? What can be enjoyed without the salt? Meaning this life and where we're living can't be enjoyable if Jake wasn't in it. How bland would this world be, man, without all the inventions and salt that we brought to it? Let me get this quick precept. Go to Matthew chapter 5. It's the book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost the savior, because the salt on a deeper level means the preservative, because we're supposed to preserve the earth, because we're not preserving the earth and we have lost our savior to be able to preserve the earth and our meaning. Now the earth is being destroyed by chemtrails, animals being killed. Esau always breaking down the forests, making less air that's clean for our people to breathe in and more toxic spirits and fumes, right? He's the one breaking down everything, making a road on every single corner. All the wildlife is getting scarce. There are not any real chickens, and he's farm raising all of these different things and putting steroids in them. In the ancient world, we had farms, cisterns. We created these things. Wherewith shall it be salted? It is thence good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden underfoot. And that's what's happening. We're being trodden underfoot as a people. You have what? Thermal hair curls, the lantern. She had the lantern all the way in the ancient world too. When those men were coming to chase and come and get Yahushua in the book, right, of John, the 18th chapter, they had lanterns. So in the nighttime to be able to see, which is spiritual, we created that, man. Because we're in a dark place, yet we see the light. Let me get that real fast. It's the mighty book of John, chapter 18. Because Esau, he's a beast of the night, so he can naturally see things in the dark. We have to create an image to where we see light in darkness, because we're not a people. We're not the children of the night, we're the children of the day. It's the book of John, chapter 18, right? And I'm going to start at verse 3. Judas then having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, cometh thither with lanterns and torches and weapons. So before in the ancient world they would light that torch, you also had lanterns with candles, right? It says gas burners. So when you think about you fry chicken, right, you get your stove heated, you sauteing, you have all of these different things, string beans, whatever you're cooking in the kitchen. We created that. The kitchen table, which is nothing more than a table of wisdom that we already had in the ancient world, and a table that our priests used to set the shewbread on. We created that. Bicycle frame, wrench, eye protector, egg beater, defroster, air conditioning unit, 2-cycle gas engine. Check that out, man. What would we be without an air conditioner? So when we look at all the jobs that we had in the scriptures and all of the things we used to do, Look at Matthew. Matthew was a publican. You have Luke. Luke was a physician. You have Zenos. Zenos was a lawyer in the scriptures. Let me get this quick precept. So we were the lawyers before the so-called white man claims it to be a lawyer and a doctor of law and studying different things. We did that. This is the book of Titus, chapter 3, verse 13. Bring Zenos the lawyer, a journey diligently, that nothing may be wanted unto them. So we're the lawyers, we're the politicians, or we're the ones that help govern the society. Now they take everything and they twist it around, and now they're the governor. They're the new people that govern the society, but they go off when they do it, man. We're the princes, the kings, the governors, the lawyers, the priests, right? All of the things that help things flourish, created and started for the form of all things, which is Jacob, right? Let me get this quick precept, right? Now, also, Jake is also an architect. So when you think of an architect, when you think of an architect and somebody making homes, buildings, mapping out different Jake, that's too hard for me. Let's just leave it to the white man. No, brother, we architects. We are the original everything. Let me get this real fast. Let's go to the mighty book of First Chronicles, the 20th chapter. Because David was an architect, man. This is the book of First Chronicles, chapter 28. And I'm gonna start at verse 9. It says, Solomon, my son, know that God served him with a perfect heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord search of all hearts and understand of all imaginations and the thoughts. If thou seekest him, he will be found of thee. But thou forsakest him, he will cast thee off forever. Take heed now, for the Lord hath chosen thee to build an house for the sanctuary. Be strong and do it. So how is he going to build a house? Is he going to whistle real loud and everybody's just going to come together with a piece of wood, man? They're going to throw it together and wrap it around real tight, man? No, the Lord strategically came up with a blueprint that he gave David, which David gave Solomon, to map out by dimension, measures, right? How we want it with the cedar wood, from the gold, to how many should be over here, what should be laid over there. That's an architect. It says, then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch. What does it mean he gave him the pattern? Meaning the architectural layout and of the houses whereof and the treasuries thereof. So you had treasuries where all of the gold was kept. You had a storehouse where David had, which all his vineyards and the fruit that he used to bring in with his different houses. David had multiple houses. That's First Chronicles, the 15th chapter, verse 1 all the way down. The pattern of the porch. They were architects. Who helped Solomon build the porch? So like who helped Solomon build everything and helped guide him? The princes that David set up. So all of these men, they were masterminds, man. It says, and the upper chambers thereof, and the inner parlors thereof, and the place of the mercy seat, and the pattern of all that he laid, it's like that he had by the spirit of the courts of the house of the Lord, and all the chambers round about of the treasuries of the house of God, and the treasuries of the dedicated things. Right? So check that out. You got refrigeration controls, clothes dresser, bottle caps. This is stuff we use every day. A bottle cap, man. Something so simple. You may scoop your water from a clean, you understand, spring or whatever the case may be. And how can you preserve it? And the Lord created the bottle cap, the hydraulic shock absorber, the mop, the refrigerator. Because in the ancient world, how we used to preserve our stuff is we used to dig underground to keep it cool. And we used to put salt on top of it. And that will preserve it. Because we didn't have refrigerators in the desert. We didn't have refrigerators as sojourners before wild beasts could get to it. And to preserve it and keep it cool, we used salt and we dug for underground. mops for cleaning, right? A wheelchair, fire escape ladder, telephone transmitter, electric cutoff switch, relay instrument, phone system, electromech brake, galvanic battery, electric railway system. So the buses, the railways, the cars, right? Engines. This is roller coaster, auto air brake, helicopter. We created the helicopter. We wouldn't even be able to travel to different states if it wasn't for us. Think about this. Think about how you communicate right now. And your family may be down south and you up north. Before you can use a plane, a helicopter, or a cell phone, how would you get in touch with your family? Check that out, man. A Santa phone, super soaker, blood plasma, ice cream, peacemaker, controls, guided missile, space shuttle, retrieval alarm, programmable remote controllers. So we the one that could control something without even hey Jake, man, create everything, man. So like a remote, something that's wireless, we created that, man. Buttons and transmitters, video commander, multi-stage rocket. Check this out. So you got Benjamin Banneker striking wall clock. So we created the wall clock and the clock. Now in the ancient world, we had the sun, which we had a sundial, and it would tell us the time it is by the shadow going upon the sundial. You understand the time of the day. From 12 being the hottest all the way to 3 p.m., we would have to know the signs of the sky. For people that just want to glance up, you could look at the wall clock, man. That was created by a so-called black man. The hand mill for grinding corn. That was created by a so-called black man. Ship sails to sail on the sea. That was created by a so-called black man. The sower, right? Backflow preventer. And that's spiritual for sowing seeds, which is spiritual. In the seed is the knowledge of the Most High God, Bashim Yahushua, and the sower is the prophet, but the ultimate sower is Yahushua. And he's going to water your mind and grow it, you understand, to wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Paper rewinder device, the light bulb created by a so-called black man. Look how much you use the light bulb. Now, if you was in the ancient world, you have to get what you got to get done, man, before that sun go down. Or you better make that fire and preserve it and keep it lit, so when the sun goes down, you have light. But who's working that hard? Who has time to do that all the time? Look how busy you are. We created the light bulb, man. There'll be no TV, no toasters. Think of everything electric. We created that. We created the fire. We created the light bulb, right? The oven light. Everything that gives you light right now, think about all the inventions that we have created, man. How useful we are to the society. But yet we're treated like nothing. It's scum. Right? The vacuum machine. Right? A barbershop. Hot comb. Right? Check that out, man. So you have Walker created the hot comb. Scissors. Look at all these inventions, man. You can just go for days and days and days. Look at all of the things that the Lord has created. The blood pulse monitor. So you wouldn't even know if you had diabetes, man, or high blood pressure, and these different things if it wasn't for Jake. Let me get this quick precept. Because we were men of science and not men of science on the left-hand side. You have two types of scientists. Science just means wisdom. It means knowledge. When you go into the word scientist. Let me get the book of Daniel. This is the book of Daniel, so I can bear with me. Chapter 1 and verse 4. It says, children in whom there was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science. So you had men from the captivity of Judah, but they were slaves but they still understood science. And we were slaves, man, coming from this American captivity, but we still understood science. Look how dumb we had to play. We had to act like we couldn't read, act like we couldn't talk, act like we didn't know our left hand from our right hand. I don't know, master. Left. Ooh, I don't know, master. We had to play stupid. When in all this time, we had all of this knowledge. And we had to keep it hidden. Check that out. And such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace. So think about all the time of all the captivity he was in. Look at the Egypt captivity. Pharaoh wanted who next to him, man? A so-called black man. He wanted Joseph next to him because Joseph had the understanding of dreams. Look at the Persia-Medo captivity. He wanted who next to him? Mordecai next to him, man. Look at all of these captivities. Look at the Babylonian captivity. Nebuchadnezzar wanted who next to him? He wanted Daniel next to him, man. He wanted the three holy children next to him, man, to stand in a room right under Daniel, because Daniel was the first black president. So these nations, they know who they need next to them to help call shots, to have wisdom, to make prudent decisions, to have the inventions to help the society to flourish. Let me get this real fast. Check this out, man. Right, permanent hair. All of this, man. Gas mask. Alarm systems. Computers. The color monitor was created by the so-called black man. We wouldn't even have iPads. No color on your phones. That's created by the so-called black man. Ice cream scoopings. Clothes, shoes. It says the TATB spot test. Diagrams. All is created by the so-called black woman. And so-called black women are just intelligent, if any, right? Of all their creations. The fire escape ladder. The x-ray. How would you know if you had broken bones if it wasn't for a so-called black man? The blood banks. To be able to have transferred of people that have bled out in war. That saves millions of lives daily, man. Let me get this quick precept of first Esdras. Because if they would have had this all the way during the time of first Esdras, probably would have saved, right, Josiah's life. Let me get this real fast. It's first Esdras chapter 1. And I'm going to start at, this whole thing is fire. Let me see where I'm going to start at. Salaki, bear with me. I'm going to start at verse 27. Well, I don't want to read too much. I'm going to start at 30. It says, Then said the king unto his servants, Carry me away of the battle, for I am very weak. And immediately his servants took him away out of the battle. So when he got taken down in a battle right of Carchemish, and all hell was breaking loose, when he was coming up against, Pharaoh, and all of these things were going on, you have to understand that he got put to death for meddling in business and matters that didn't pertain to him. Now, if they had all of these doctor systems and food, and blood banks and different things in the ancient world, that would have saved many lives. The cancer treatment, leprosy treatment. What else we got, man? Heating systems, street sweepers, wrenches. If it wasn't for the wrench, we wouldn't be able to keep mechanics tight together with cars, parts, buildings, machinery. Piano, we already went over that. Even the casket, right? Because we used to wrap, our ancient custom was to wrap each other. You understand? And bury each other. They came up with the casket, a voice recorder. Check this out. The spring gun. Edward L. Lewis in the 1800s created the spring gun. So the so-called white man has stolen everything and changed it upside down for evil and for his own uses. Let me get that in the book of Sirach 33. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 33. And I'm going to start at 11. In much knowledge the Lord hath divided them and made their ways diverse. So the Lord is the divided man. You know, Esau may see a piece of steel and think how he can stab somebody with it, man, and sharpen it up for war and kill somebody. We may see steel and see an invention. You understand how to create a car part, how to create something lucrative to help one another. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them have he sanctified and set near himself, but some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out their places. As the clay in the potter's hand to fashion it as pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that hath made to render them as he liketh best. Good is set against evil, and life against death. Check that out. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. This is the point. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another. I'm sure the so-called black man created the spring gun for protection. Maybe to kill a wild beast if they charge, you know, a burglar, an alarm, whatever the case may be. What did the so-called white man has taken a gun to do? To rob, to overthrow countries, to invade lands, to kill unjust people. Fire squad of death implemented for an innocent black man, man. And all he did was just try to cross the street and end up doing something in the process that got him fired at, man. So they'll take the inventions and they'll make them two against one another and they'll use them for evil, man. Check this out. Coconut oil, right? The improved fountain pen, lemon squeezers, the lock, potato chips, folding cabinet bed, right? Trying to see if we missed any. The microphone for music, right? Abroad, the airways to let you know it's an emergency, the tissue holder, the super soaker. So all praises to the Most High for all the inventions that he has given the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to be able to survive. And we have these inventions to make sure that we're surviving. You understand? We're using them of the Lord. Not to have some 21st century mindset of the future to forget the Most High, man. What the so-called white man is moving with his science and his witchcraft. Let me get this quick precept. Let me get this precept again. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse number 16. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name, man. So what a former of all things. Next thing you think about all these inventions that we just went through that I never even knew prior to coming into this truth that we even invented anything, man. Because they brainwash you to make you think that we're just nothing but slaves. And we can't do nothing but invent damn drugs and madness. But let me get this quick precept. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 2, right? Salaki, chapter 3 and verse 2. And it reads, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before Yahweh. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore watch, I should know what hour I will come upon thee. So Most High willing, this was edifying. Most High willing, you look at all in this world and continue to honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach.